like a funnel. A hippo funnel, Houndstooth added.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television. River of Teeth.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
All right, greetings. Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's the book podcast that's a caper, not an operation. We're back. It's been fits and starts, a lot like herding hippopotamuses. Which declension is that?
So, I will be saying hippopotamuses because I speak the language known as English. And in
Okay.
English, in general, when we want to pluralize something, we just slap a big hippo-sized S on the end of it. I'm not hard line about it. I think octopi is funny. I think hippopotami is funny. I just feel like a jagoff when I say it. So
How about hippos?
I couldn't love it more. Except, that's a little familiar. Do we really know them well enough to call them by a shortened version?
After reading almost 200 pages, I would say that we do. And listeners at home, you're about to find out why we're talking about this. But before, we should introduce ourselves. I am King Hippo, J.W. Friedman.
And I'm Chris Collision. And whereas Jay is widely known as an elephant rider, you can just call me the Hippo Rider.
I was going to make the clutch joke, damn it.
You left an opening, Jay. An opening a man could ride a hippo through. So that man was me, and that man did that thing.
Okay, so what book are we talking about this time around, and what's it about?
Well, friends, this time around we are reading a book called River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. I think I found this one by trawling just the library website looking for something to read and basically saw only alternate history, United States, hippos introduced, they kill people, and by about the time I got to the word people, I think I was already texting you, hey, I think I found a good one for us.
Well, it's true. This is one of the few alternate history novels, I think, in existence that doesn't involve racists winning a major war. So that alone, pretty exciting stuff.
Yep.
And, you texted me, and I thought the premise sounded ridiculous and silly. It's essentially a what-if book if the U.S. had decided to import hippos as a source of meat and cowboys rode around on hippos.
Yeah.
Which I was like, this is delightful and hilarious. But it turns out this book is actually kind of highly acclaimed, which we had no idea going in. So, you may have read this already, especially if you're into sci-fi. This was nominated for a Hugo, I believe.
I think a Hugo and a Nebula.
Yeah, which makes me happy to some degree, because I love the idea of the grumpy-ass Hugo Nebula community sitting around stroking their beards and grumbling about this goddamn hippo book. So, that was good.
All of this was something I became aware of well after the fact of reading and listening to the book. I genuinely thought this was going to be another entry in the beloved, especially by me, genre of unexpected animal goes murderous series. That's what I thought we were in for. You should know what I did not. That is not what we are in for. I also did not know that this book with a premise that I think even Sarah Gailey would agree could be described using the word goofy, had been nominated for major awards.
Yeah, the epilogue itself, the prologue itself by the author, they go into great detail to describe that this came about when they were doing some research and found that I guess at some point in the early 1900s, it was considered to use hippos for meat. And the author thought it would be really entertaining to just write a cowboy romp and move everything about 50 years back and write a quote-unquote silly cowboy romp involving hippopotamuses.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think everything about this was intended to be fun and entertaining, and there wasn't really supposed to be a lot of heavy stuff going on.
Right. Until there was, and we'll get to that.
Until there was, yeah.
So, look, if you want to say, well, if it was nominated for awards, how can it be a bad book and therefore fit the purview of the show as clearly laid out in the theme song? My response would be twofold, maybe threefold. One, it's just a show, you should really just relax. Two, anything with a premise this goofy is well within our purview. And number three, look, it's quite short. The author has occasionally described it as a novella, and your boys just needed that. We needed the W, sorry.
Yeah, we got to get back into the swing of things. You got to learn to crawl before you can walk. Sometimes you got to relearn to walk before you can run. So yeah, 200 pages, that's perfect. And
you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to ride a hippo away.
Yeah, especially when you're on a gambling riverboat surrounded by feral hippos. With an evil proprietor who just might throw you overboard at any possible second. And yes, this happens.
Like multiple fucking times this happens. Yeah. The other thing I would say is if one were to advance the criticism of us, which is easily my least favorite kind of criticism, that this was nominated for awards, therefore can't be bad. So was Snow Crash. So put that in your hippo tusk pipe and smoke it.
Interestingly enough, this book also features a character named Hero.
Womp womp. Yeah, exactly. Anywho, should I essay, if you will, a plot in 60?
I think so, because just hinting at little pieces of this book is just going to make people scratch their head and make faces at their. Well, you can't make a face at your earbuds, but you know what I mean. So
you remember that guy who looked like he could swallow his own nose?
Oh yeah,
he could make faces at his own earbuds.
That's probably true. Or you could just take them out.
Yeah, exactly. Glare at them. Okay, so here's the thing. I want two things. I want very much to succeed at this plot in 60 seconds challenge. For you new listeners, we're about to do a challenge where I attempt to describe and evoke the plot of this slim volume in under 1 minute. Longer-term listeners will know that I'm not always 100% successful with this. And I very much want to be successful with it this time, but this is a heist book. And the thing about a heist book is that you have to put the team together. And the thing about putting a team together is that they are very specific characters with very specific backstories, and if you don't describe them, it doesn't make any sense. So, what I'd like to do is do a plot in 60, but then double back and give you the background and cast information that I think is necessary. Will you, Jay, grant me permission to do this?
I will allow it.
Wow, Judge Jay.
Gavel sound, gavel sound.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the plot first, and then double back and do the character and background information.
You got 60 seconds, screaming the shout. You got 60 seconds, don't leave nothing out. You got 60 seconds, open your mouth and tell them what the goddamn book's about.
Okay, we'll time you for the first part. The second part, freeform, like jazz.
Like jazz. We're just gonna explore the space. And in the second part, of course, you can interrupt at any time.
Okay, well, are you ready for your 60-second summary?
I'm kneeling on the saddle that is strapped to the back of my onyx hippopotamus, yes.
All right, then, begin.
A team has been hired to clear the feral hippopotamuses from the Mississippi River. The plan is to drive them out of their marshlands into the Gulf of Mexico. The team's leader, Winslow Houndstooth, isn't just in this game for the money, though. He wants revenge on the richest man in the territory, Travers, who burned down his hippopotamus ranch some 10 years earlier in the midst of building his empire of riverboat gambling houses with man-eating feral hippopotamuses, taking care of disposing of his business rivals, card cheats, and other disagreeable sorts. Houndstooth assembles his team, including a non-binary demolitions expert named Hero, with whom he falls in love, his former ranch hand, Cal Hotchkiss, a gun-slinging card cheat, Archie, a French-accented con woman, and Adelia Reyes, a contract killer who's being chased by a federal marshal. Travers traps the team, however, and Reyes betrays Hero, slipping knives into them, but non-fatally, and Houndstooth and Archie complete the mission and release the hippos, and the hippos kill Travers. The sequel gets hecka set up. The end.
A little over, but I think it was close enough. So we'll let it slide. Gonna grant you a little bit of clemency here. I think that's the term. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? I don't know words. It's just a book podcast. And
clemency, my favorite kind of orange.
Let's go back and talk about the team and how they come together. The team of experts, if you will.
Yeah.
Of hippo experts.
Hippo experts, known in the vernacular of this book as hops.
Hoppers, right?
Yeah, so hops are
baby hippos.
Hops are baby hippos, and sometimes hippos themselves, as one might call a full-grown dog, a puppy.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, it's actually possible that a young hippo is called a hop. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't bother to check. I should have done it. We could be running afoul of our large zoologist audience.
To say nothing of the hippopotamus enthusiasts. So yeah, they're all hoppers, which is book slang for cowboy, except cowboy but for hippo, right? Okay, so our hero is Winslow Houndstooth. Winslow is an Englishman with a fast knife hand and a sexual appetite you would describe as omnivorous. There's a big set piece at the beginning where he seduces a young government agent who seems curious but perhaps not used to having knowledge of men sexually.
Yes. And beyond omnivorous, we should just say extremely horny. This character has more sex in 200 pages than most characters have in, 4 or 5 book series. So that should be pointed out as well.
Well, we have to note that those other characters in those other book series are in worse books. So
that's true.
Maybe there's a connection there. So Winslow is English. I think I said that.
You did.
It is hinted that his accent doesn't match his appearance, but the only detail about the mismatch is something about his eyes. So I conjecture that he is covertly coded as Asian. Did you get that impression, or am I hallucinating?
I did not, actually. I got the impression that his accent didn't match his appearance because or people expected him to have a British accent, but he grew up in Georgia and had a Southern accent. That was what I took from it. But I could have not been paying as much of attention to it as you. I think that might be a fair bet because I got kind of caught up in the rootinest, tootinest hippo story I ever done read pretty quick and was not really looking at it with much of a critical eye for a large chunk of the reading experience, which we'll get into. But I think that's entirely possible. The cast, as you'll see, is very diverse, so I think that's entirely possible for sure.
Okay. Now, an important thing about Winslow Houndstooth is that he had a hippo ranch that it had been his dream of a lifetime to establish. And the first ranch hand he hired is another member of the team. That is gunslinging, card cheat, and unsuccessfully mustachioed man Cal Hotchkiss. And we'll talk more, I think, about this. But, Cal could not be more obvious this guy's a shitheel character. If he were, wearing a placard around his neck saying, "My favorite biblical character is Pontius Pilate,"
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it in high points and low points, but yeah, the character of Cal, I'd say, is drawn with crayons at best. Crayons, for those of you who didn't grow up in the South. See, my accent doesn't match my appearance either.
So when the ranch burned down years ago, leaving both Cal and, it would seem, Winslow Houndstooth without gainful occupation, two important things need to be noted. One, there was but one hippo left, and that was baby Ruby. Ruby's probably everybody's favorite character. She's a jet black hippo who is described more than once as having been bred for stealth. Pause for laughter.
Also, the subject of my favorite sentence in the book, which is our hero. I can't say our hero because there's a character named Hero, so right. I have to keep remembering. He's described as, "You're my girl, Ruby Roo," he cooed, rubbing her whiskers, "and you're the best gold-damned hippo there is." Which, I just love the idea of talking sweet nothings to your hippo. So.
Oh, hell yeah. Also, Ruby's tusks, gold-plated.
Yeah, Winthrop pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, so that's...
Or not Winthrop, that's Cal. What? Oh, God, these names, I'm sorry.
Winslow Houndstooth.
There's Winslow, and then there's Winthrop. Don't get them confused anymore, Jay. Okay. Continuing.
All right. When the second thing you need to know about the Hippo Ranch burning down is that it was the fault of a bad man named Travers. No first name, but listeners of a certain age will certainly, every single time, think, Canadian guitar slinger Pat Travers?
That would have made this book better.
Yeah, sadly, the answer is no. Pat Travers, as mentioned earlier, is your classic Western villain. He's a rich guy who just wants to get richer, and screw him. Our third team member is Hero. Hero is, quote, an ink-dark, fine-boned rogue. Hero both uses and is referred to exclusively with they-them pronouns throughout, and is a demolitions expert, appears to have invented remote-controlled explosive devices in a pre-electronic age, and is immune to at least some poisons.
I'd just like to point out that thing that you just mentioned will come back again in high points, low points, because, God, that irritated the hell out of me. Specifically the pre-electronic remote control part, none of the other parts.
I think I may have an inkling about whether that will be a high point or a low point.
Well, I love getting mad about stuff, so you never know.
That's why we're on Twitter!
Big thumbs up.
Big thumbs up, yeah. So Winslow and Hero fall in love basically instantly, but only the reader knows that. They don't. And they sort of discover and realize that they're in love with each other very slowly over the course of the book, and very lamentably consummate it entirely off stage for some reason. This reader felt that was a suboptimal move, frankly. And I will just say that this is a subplot that the author clearly loves. And it really comes through, and it is quite a bit of fun. Sarah Gailey writes that stuff quite well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the last two members of the team are Regina Archambault. Archie. Archie is a Louisiana con artist with an accent that is roughly as thick as camembert cheese. I have a hard copy of the book, and it is written in I dialect, so she's dropping, H's where they should be and putting them where they shouldn't be. It is a full-on, like, Pepe Le Pew level accent here.
Oh, yeah. It's very over the top.
I'm going to guess that the working model for transcribing this I dialect was probably Gomez Adams speaking fake French to get Morticia Adams all horned up.
Perhaps, or maybe Adam Sandler's Cajun Boy.
Yeah, one of the two. Although I suspect I know which cultural touchstone is more Sarah Gailey's speed.
That is very true. They did not come across as the type of author who was really into bad SNL skits from the early 90s.
Yeah.
Except for all those weird Hurley Boy references. I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah, okay, I'm just going to say it. Sarah Gailey, if you want to come on and talk to us about, Opera Man or whatever, take the Come On IDEO TV challenge.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that Chris Farley character that lives in a van down by the river for 45 minutes.
It'll be fucking dope. We will have so much fun. And I'm not just extending that invitation because the back of the book says Sarah Gailey lives in Oakland.
Oh, hey, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I mean, that may be out of date by now, but who knows? So Archie is also a self-described fat person and uses her size as an advantage, basically as an invisibility cloak when she's conning people, when she's doing, pickpocketing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is another example of what you mentioned earlier, which is this is, especially for a period piece, an extremely diverse cast of characters. She's also a great kisser and a longtime running mate of Winslow Houndstooth, sort of the Rusty Ryan to his Danny Ocean. There's lots of banter about how many times she's saved his life, for example. So they have a long-running relationship.
I just recently finished watching the What We Do in the Shadows TV series, and as soon as you mentioned that, it reminded me of the episode where there's the guy who has the world's largest collection of Ocean's 12 memorabilia.
Wow, 2 pieces.
Anyway.
I have not seen the second season. This is a hole in my life that I badly need to fill.
Yeah, get ready for a bunch of emails about Jackie Daytona, human bartender.
Buddy, you've been making Jackie Daytona references that go over my head for like 3 weeks now.
Well, it's amazing, but also it's everybody's favorite thing. So get ready.
Well, okay, I'm ready. My body is ready. I just started Broadchurch, so it might be a minute before I get there.
Yeah, it's quite a tonal shift too.
I don't know. My favorite parts of Broadchurch are season 1, which is where I am, are the comedy bits. Probably shouldn't have said that out loud.
It's okay. Anyway, moving on. I believe we still have one more.
Yeah, no, we still do. Finally, we have Adelia Reyes, the most dangerous contract killer in the world. She's got a snake tattoo coiling up the side of her neck, and a fondness for sharpening knives as her primary contribution to a conversation.
Also cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's basically the Chris Collision self-insert fanfic character. If you want to know what I see when I see a reflective surface, it's basically Adelia Reyes, like, sharpening the edge of a blade and, like, looking coolly at somebody. However, she is also record scratch pregnant?
Extremely pregnant.
Yeah, and you will never guess who fathered that child.
Or will you?
Or will you? Yeah, I mean, if you have a handle on... Is there a character in this who's been set up to be sort of an omni-betrayer? You may have some idea who fathered that fetus.
Adroit readers may recognize that the shit heel is quite possibly the man who fathered this woman's child and then disappeared from her life.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the team. Jay, let's not save it for a segment because we'll have a different section. But if you had to pick just one favorite, who's your favorite member of the team?
It's tough. I'm probably going to go with Hero, because Hero is definitely, like, the scientific brains in the operation, for sure. They've got, like, all of the skills to pay the bills when it comes to strategizing and also, creating all of the gadgets needed to make sure that things succeed. And so I really dug that, but I've always been attracted to that in kind of heist movies and those sort of stories. I've always liked the cues, of the world. So yeah, I would say definitely, I think Hero for sure.
I mean, Hero is also, it's odd because the point of view character is very much Winslow Houndstooth. I just can't get enough of saying that. But even though we spend most of our time with Houndstooth, Hero is definitely the character with the most interesting inner life. And that really comes through. So I think you've made a defensible choice. You've basically picked someone with the skills of Donatello, but the heart of Raphael.
That's very true. Unfortunately, there is no Michelangelo, and that's a real letdown.
Maybe for you. I frankly felt Michelangelo was kind of a pandering character.
Whoa, why do you say that, cowabunga, dude?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Let me put my skateboard down on top of my slice of pizza, and perhaps we can get into it more fully. I think, unfortunately, a rich inner life is not as interesting to me as a wildly over-the-top accent. So my favorite would probably have to be Archie, if only because I think there needs to be more space in literature for characters who basically say "ha ha ha" between all of their noun phrases.
And Archie, she has some great dialogue. Before we get any further in talking about this, I just wanted to talk about the general experience of reading this, because I think both of us, before we started recording, had kind of the same point phrased differently about this. And that's, as we mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard to say this is a bad book. It's been nominated for some awards, which, doesn't alone preclude it from being bad. Plenty of bad books have been nominated for awards, but it also appears to have been enjoyed by a lot of people, and I would say that I am one of those people. But what kind of bothered me about it is that, like, even as we mentioned in the prologue, it stated this is kind of supposed to be a fun, somewhat goofy romp. And what kind of bugged me is that while I did enjoy the book quite a bit, this is a book about cowboys involved in a wild caper that revolves around hippo herding. And by 4 or 5 pages in, the whole concept had become so normalized to me that it just ceased to be fanciful. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading a cowboy book. And that should not happen when you're talking about gigantic swaths of feral hippos attacking people who are thrown off a riverboat. So that was a little weird, I gotta say.
I think that's exactly right. There's a long scene fairly early where Houndstooth is reaching into his bag of resin that keeps the saddle from moving around too much on the hippo's back, drawing a map on the hippo's butt to explain the plan to Hero. And all I'm thinking when I'm reading this scene is, oh, I just really want to know more about the plan. Like, it just completely vanishes that somebody's using white powder to draw maps on the hippo's ass, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I want to wallow in the strangeness of that image for a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book doesn't have really any interest in wallowing in the strangeness. I actually think it did a little bit too good a job of setting up the world building, so you're just sort of like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely how that would work as you're going through it. And no book with a premise this goofy has any right to be as good as it is, and that's honestly a tiny bit disappointing. Like, this is the kind of book that we came into, I think, expecting like insanity, and instead what we got was a very well executed piece of like historical speculative fiction.
Yeah, it's it's a really good cowboy tale, and I don't know if this book should have been worse than it is technically a legitimate criticism, but that's the way I feel, because I really wanted to laugh at the ridiculousness of they're on hippos and stuff, and we're supposed to take it seriously, but instead you just kind of end up in this world where you're like, oh yeah, they're hoppers. It's really strange.
Yeah, but I think that is just a mark of success, like, at least for a certain audience, and we are certainly that kind of audience. I remember when I saw, I think it was the second of the recent Planet of the Apes movies, which I insist is the only artistically and intellectually reputable modern blockbuster series. But there's a moment where I believe Caesar, king of the apes, rides a horse through a wall of flame, shooting a machine gun with each hand. And when you hear it in words, there's an inherent absurdity to it. It just made Jay laugh. But I'm here to tell you that if movies aren't for that, I don't know what the fuck movies are for. Like, there is a level of absurd spectacle that just becomes good, And I think that this is good, but what it needed was slightly more absurd and slightly more spectacle. Like, you mentioned the scenes where, Travers is hurling people into a roiling muck pit of feral hippos to dispose of them. And, like, that gets a paragraph and you move on because the book is interested in the actual plot. Well, I'm just a simple reader. Yeah. I want more than a paragraph of hippos giving this hapless card cheat the what for,
Yeah. I want crabs with human-like intelligence and military strategy.
I want generals saying things like, I've never encountered a hippo so cunning, yet so savage.
Exactly. Well, I guess let's move on to official high and low points, since we both kind of talked about something that qualifies as each for us. Yeah. So here's a little piece of music.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
All right, so high points, low points. We're gonna get into it. Gonna do some high points, do some low points, do some more low points, then do some high points. It's the compliment sandwich. which is a hippo's favorite. Collision, would you like to start us off?
I can get us kicked off. I think I've said a lot of positive things about this, but I just want to say that, like, this is a great airport read. Mm-hmm. I read this in a sprint. Like, I'd read the first couple of chapters, but was feeling like I was running out of time, so I bought the audiobook, and I listened to it in one stretch while I was just, like, cooking and cleaning the kitchen for 4.5 hours. And it was awesome. And it just really made me think, like, if like airport book dads were reading this instead of Tom Clancy or whatever bullshit.
Yeah, whatever bullshit involving some sort of serial killer doing brutal things to people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And related to that, like, whatever bullshit James Patterson, Incorporated has just, like, dumped out inexplicably next to his name, our world would be a little bit gentler. It would be a little better informed. It might be more understanding, a little more generous. At least the airport, book reading dad contingent would be. And if we can get them, there's just no stopping us.
That's true. I mean, there is a saying, as goes the airport reading dad, so goes America. So.
Exactly. So that was a high point for me. And the fact that this was nominated for awards makes me think you might be able to buy this in your better airport bookstore.
I doubt it. It's still all like, hey, look, Stephen King wrote another book about a car that kills people. Okay. High point for me, I think, and this is definitely maybe going to reveal a lot about my reading habits, and that I tend to read a lot of older books and not a lot of newer books. And so, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very diverse cast. This is definitely one of the first books I've read that had a protagonist or a main character who uses they, them pronouns exclusively. And it felt very, I guess, modern to read and very kind of like refreshing to read, a book that all just wasn't like very stereotypical old-fashioned gender roles, and I really appreciated that quite a bit. So it's made me realize that that's something I need to seek out a lot more in my reading, I think, and maybe kind of temper my John Dixon Carr fandom with more modern stuff that doesn't revolve around men be doing this and women be doing that. So that was a big high point for me, for sure.
Yeah, and there's actually a really nice scene early where there's basically sort of a bilateral seduction scene where Houndstooth has to recruit Hero, but they're also kind of, flirting with each other a little bit. And Houndstooth says something like, well, I've just got one question for you. And Hero's like, oh, here it comes. And Houndstooth is like, are you in? Or wait, what? How were you not poisoned by that poisoned iced tea that you made? And it's not the question Hero was expecting. And that was just like kind of a nice touch. It kind of puts a hat on it.
Later on, there's our villainous character refers to the two very binary male characters as gentlemen, and then he says ladies, and it says that Hero shoots him a disgruntled look or something like that. I found that pretty entertaining too. That was one of those moments where I was just like, ah, cool. Yep. So yeah, I dug that a lot.
Nice. But now I've got to give a low point, and I feel a little bit churlish about this, but you'll remember that about 7 hours ago on the podcast, I mentioned that I always felt a little pandered to by Michelangelo, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, who I always feared was just 1 second away from doing yo-yo tricks at me.
Yeah, but you know what the real yo-yo trick is, Collision? Jesus.
Jesus Christ. That's right. It died for our sins. There's a moment here that I'm just going to read where I felt a little pandered to, and I personally did not like it. Other readers' mileage will certainly vary. I think Hero drawled, crossing the room to join Houndstooth. that he's the least of our problems. Hero stared out the window. Houndstooth stared at Hero. What's the worst of our problems? Hero smiled, watching the water below them. Well, Winslow, there's only one bed in here. They turned their head, still smiling, and took in Houndstooth's rich pink blush. And last I counted, there's 2 of us.
Oh.
Like, this is an actual, factual, but there's only one bed in a book, and I felt that was a little pandering.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of hop onto that for my second low point here. Is that, and I think it's something you alluded to earlier, is that the strongest points of this book by far are the romance points, and those are the parts that I think that I enjoyed the most. And I think that, maybe perhaps putting a little bit more of the overt focus on that element of the book and a little less on the adventure tale would have made for a more interesting read, because the adventurous stuff feels kind of route and by the numbers, whereas the romance feels very unique and cool to read about and is really well done and well drawn. So, I feel like in a lot of ways what you have here is the soul of a romance book, yearning to break free of the trappings of genre action. And there are definitely times where it feels like, just write the damn romance already. You don't need to keep hinting at it. And I guess it's kind of what you were talking about when you said that particular scene pandered to you, but I felt like a lot of the book was kind of doing that in a very coy way, where it's just like, look, we all know what this is supposed to go, where this is supposed to go, so just put it on the page, damn it, Yeah. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I wanted to read more of that. That was the best part of the book to me. So, I don't know.
For sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. And that is very related to my second low point, which is that 2 elements of the plotting fell a little short for me. The execution of the heist plot, because it is kind of a caper, book.
Excuse me. It's not a caper. It's an operation, as is mentioned at least 20 times. It's a clever catchphrase.
Yeah, that runner came desperately close to being my second low point. I don't know why that didn't work for me. Jokes are jokes. They don't work for everybody. But yeah, the heist plot execution was not great. I would describe it as hour-long TV show episode level heist. Your leverage level heist. Your
elementary.
Your good episode of Buffy level heist. Not a novel quality or movie level heist. The Winslow Houndstooth even says at one point the plan is not to do a year-long job but take a shortcut, and the plot actually feels like a shortcut in kind of a unsatisfying way. There's also this supposed reveal quite late that the book's primary villain, Canadian guitar slinger Pat Travers, and obviously untrustworthy Cal Hotchkiss, the reveal is they were responsible for the betrayal of Winslow Houndstooth and the burning of his hippo ranch, but it falls super flat because it's never not been obvious that was the case.
I remember getting to that part and being surprised that I was supposed to have not figured that out the minute it was first described.
Right.
It really felt like that was on the page from the minute it occurs.
Yeah, exactly. And really what that just means is, the author did too good a job of foreshadowing it, which is fine. But, we're always supposed to believe that Winslow and Hero especially are one step ahead. Winslow thinks he's one step ahead. Hero always is one step ahead. And so the reveal to Houndstooth just doesn't work. It just, the plotting of especially those 2 major plot elements just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. And I think for my second low point, it's kind of similar. It's the way the book is paced, because there is, I said 200 pages, but about 30 pages of those are excerpts from the author's next book, which is a sequel to this, which I'm sure is paced differently because it's much longer. But I would say that at least the first 100 to 120 pages of this book are getting the band together and then kind of making some plans that don't exactly go according to plan, and then there's maybe about 60 pages of actual heist, most of which kind of falls apart and turns into scrambly action scenes with very little narrative glue to hold them together. So, once again, I think it kind of goes back to my other low point. It's that I just don't feel like this book really wanted to be what it was, and it's really, really clearly drawn in the plotting and the pacing of the book, because the part that is in most books of this genre would be at the foreground of the storytelling is very hastily jammed into the back half of the book and is kind of unrewarding, which isn't to say that it's not a fun book to read. It is, but it's just not for the reasons that I think it's supposed to be, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense. But now, like a hippo doing steeplechase, it's time for us to clear the hurdle of the final high point.
Yes.
Why don't you go first?
Okay, hippopotamuses, and they're like horses, and people ride them around, and they're adorable, and they all have names like Ruby and Abigail, and it's just wonderful. And the heroes all have very, very sweet relationships with their hippo steeds. It's just it's people riding hippopotamuses into battle in the Old West, and no matter how far you stray from the fact that maybe it's not written as a comedy when I wished it was, it's still a pretty hilarious premise that is awesome. So that is my second high point.
I think that is it's like actually inarguable. I'm going to go out on a much more minor high point, which is that Archie, among her other formidable charms, has a unique weapon. Her unique weapon is the meteor hammer.
My favorite spell in Final Fantasy, by the way, definitely.
So I, too, had that kind of association with it, and it started as a low point, but then I did a little Googling, and it's a real thing, the meteor hammer. A meteor hammer is basically a heavy ball at the end of a chain. Usually, it's a heavy ball at either end of a chain. Savvy American movie-going heads may remember this as a weapon wielded in one of the Kill Bill movies.
Oh, wow. Yeah, like a bolo.
Yeah. So it's a variant of bolo. I do feel like it's a tiny missed opportunity not to give it a super cool Old Westing kind of name. But the experience of learning that this is a real thing and thinking about how badass it would be to just carry one around all the time was a huge high point for me.
I'm going to enroll in self-defense classes that specifically revolve around the meteor hammer, just so I can tell people that I'm a master in the art of the meteor hammer, and they'll be like, wow, that guy's really good at Final Fantasy VII.
I'm very glad that you're good at Final Fantasy VII.
I'm not even the remake. I'm shit at it. Anyway, but I do, before we go out here at the beginning of the first segment, I do just want to kind of reiterate once again. I know high points, low points, we kind of like to, we have to. We are quote-unquote critics with heavy emphasis on the quote-unquote. So we got to talk about some of the stuff that we didn't like so much. But I do want to just go out by saying that I did enjoy reading this book quite a bit. It's a romp. It's fun. It has its problems like we discussed, but for a book to come back to the show with after a bit of a break, I found it really refreshing and entertaining. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Hell yeah. Again, agree with everything you said, and just reiterating the Sarah Gailey Come on IDEO TV challenge.
No, please, please. Ignore all the low point things we said and come on, and we'll have a great time. It'll be awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break and practice our meteor hammers, and we'll be right back.
I got to slosh some water on my hippo real quick.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We've been bouncing around in the saddles on our hippos, and it's time to take a little break because I'm getting a little sore, and we're going to play some games around the campfire. As we like to do on this show, we're going to read parts of this book to you, and we're going to make them sound a real dramatic-like. And in order to introduce such a segment, there's nothing better than some music that sounds like, I don't know, bad Yarly new metal from the 1990s. So here's a song about dramatic readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so it's that time. Collision, I would implore you to begin.
All right, well, you know that if there's a book about an animal that goes wild and kills people, that's going to be what I'm going to read for you. So I'm just going to read that for you. Hero stared into Archie's eyes, unblinking. I understand. Archie clapped them on the shoulder, hard, smiling warmly. I know you do. I can tell. I just had to say it. You know how it is. Don't be too scared. I think you are good for him. You should see how he smiles at you when he thinks you are not looking. Plus, you keep him from thinking he is the smartest in the room. Hero smiled, ducking their head. Then, they looked up. The smile suddenly gone. Did you hear that? What? Archie said. Are they finally just comparing their cocks and having done with it? But Hero was already on their feet, running to the water's edge. They were too late. By the time Hero had reached the riverbank, Neville was half submerged in the water. There came a fierce splash, and the boy surged into the air before landing, caught in the gaping mouth of the feral bull. He hung in the mouth of the beast, stunned. His left leg hung between the bull's front tusks, the angle wrong. It bled freely, and his blood spilled over the hippo's whiskers. Archie covered her mouth with both hands when she caught up with Hero, as though to catch the boy's name, even as she shouted it. Cal and Houndstooth looked up and came running. The bull was still for a long, thick moment. Then, with a lightning-quick twist of its thick neck, it snapped its jaws closed. The boy was dead. There could be no question, even before the feral bull shook him below the water. Archie turned away. Hero put an arm around her, shielding her as much as possible from the bloodied swamp water that sprayed the shore. Cal and Houndstooth stood frozen a few yards from the water's edge, empty-handed. Cal's toothpick dangled from his slack lower lip. They did not see Adelia coming. Neither did the hippo. It wasn't until the beast was bleeding that Houndstooth registered her standing next to him, her arm outstretched toward the hippo as though she was offering it a handshake. Houndstooth looked from her to the bull, which twitched and writhed spasmodically in the frothy pink water. He put his hand to his pocket as though he'd find anything there. But of course, it was empty. The long, slender, ivory-handled knife he'd taken from the marsh jack back in Georgia was gone. A mere inch of the handle still protruded from the bull's eye socket. The rest of the knife was buried in the beast's brain. A trickle of blood spilled over the hippo's cheek like tears as it gave a final thrash, and then sank below the surface of the water. As the ripples stilled, Adelia lowered her throwing arm. "That," Cal said quietly, "is why you shouldn't be in the water after sundown."
Dun dun dun. Bong bong.
Yeah! Hippo kill! Oh man. What if Law and Order, but all the characters were hippos?
Law and Order SHU, Special Hippo Unit.
God damn it.
I gotta tell you, Detective Munch, I love having tusks.
They got people riding hippos through the swamps all day and all night. They call it getting hopped up.
They call it hippo hop. You take some, the next thing you know, you wake up in a convenience store covered in swamp water. Anyway. Okay. So I'm going to read a piece right after Dastardly Cal dies. The integrity of their plan is compromised. They're now short one obvious double crosser, which is not yet obvious to the people involved in the plan yet. Because
they haven't read any books, but we've read books, and
we've read books.
We've seen television programs where characters are welcome, so we know who to look for in a traitor.
Characters welcome, stories not so much. Anyway. Not only did they not read books, the men in this, I had forgotten about this, which was one of my favorite lines, where it says that Cal and Houndstooth were staring at their playing cards as if the front of them had naked women painted on them instead of the back. So, it's a good little one-off there, I thought.
Auga!
They were staring at the pens as if they were the kind that when you turned it upside down, the lady's skirt went up.
Homina, 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 homina.
Oh, Glavin. Anyway, so hang on 1 second. All right, so anyway, we're down one double crossing bad guy, and it's time to reconvene, reconsider, and get on with the plan. So we begin with Winslow acknowledging this fact. "It also means we're all up to our necks in the bog, without so much as a hop to ride," Houndstooth said in a clipped voice. "We can't do this without Cal." He began to pace the suite, running his hands through his hair. Hero didn't look up from their whittling. "If you're so beside yourself about it, Winslow, I can chew on toothpicks and sling racial slurs with the best of 'em. Might need to practice some, but I'm sure I can get in fighting shape by morning." Houndstooth laughed, a genuine easy laugh, and then sat heavily on the bed next to Archie. "Look around the room, Hero. What's missing?" Hero glanced around the suite. "Palpable body odor." Houndstooth laughed again, but this time the laugh seemed forced. Adelia and Archie exchanged a glance. "We're missing a white boy," Adelia murmured, stroking her belly. "So what?" Archie huffed. "If we need one so bad, I am sure I can drag one back up here for you, Winslow. There's no shortage." Houndstooth was staring at Hero. Hero stared back at him for a long moment. "What is it? What are we failing to understand here, Winslow? What's so tough about pulling off this hippo caper without Cal on board?" Hippo caper. Houndstooth dropped his head into his hands. "We need your supplies, Hero, and nobody on the Harriet is going to sell your supplies to a stranger, not even for easy money. We've been corresponding with a dealer, and he's expecting Cal to come buy the goods from him, and we're working with him on the strength of Cal's reputation on the Harriet. He's expecting Cal. He's expecting a white man with a terrible mistake of a mustache." He rubbed his face with his hands, groaning. "And it's not a caper. It's an operation." Hero whittled faster, sending hickory shavings flying into the plush red carpet. Right. All above board, so ask your federal boy. I'm sure the Army can send something." Houndstooth looked uncomfortable. "I can't ask him." Hero's lips quirked into a half smile. "Oh, honestly, you're embarrassed?" Houndstooth scowled at them. "No, I'm not embarrassed. It's just that he doesn't know what we're going to do here. He's assuming we'll net each feral one by one and escort them out of the swamp. That's why the contract is for a full year. Adelia swore under her breath. That's idiotic. That's dangerous, Archie added. That's why we're not doing it that way, Houndstooth said. Houndstooth slapped the edge of the map, his cheeks pink. It was a great goddamn plan, and it sunk. Hero put a calming hand on his arm. His cheeks reddened further. So we need a white boy pourquoi to buy dynamite? Hero nodded. Lots of it. And detonators, fuses, timers, and wax. A lot of wax. Archie left the room without saying another word. Where is she going? Adelia asked. Probably to charm some poor kid into buying Hero's groceries, Houndstooth replied. I suppose that's why she's on the team. She could talk a hippo into thinking it was a rhinoceros without breaking a sweat.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I get that there are other books that do not include include the phrase hippo caper or the sentence, so we need a white boy pourquoi. But, like, that's just a mistake that those books exist, right?
We need a white boy pourquoi is not only one of the most amazing lines that I've read in a book in a long time, it should also be the official slogan of the podcasting medium. So.
Yes. I mean, would it be
quick? We need a show about Dungeons and Dragons. We need a white boy pourquoi.
Pourquoi? Yeah. Like, would it be a tiny bit disingenuous for us to put that on a t-shirt and monetize it? Yes.
Yes.
Will that stop us? I hope also yes.
Yes, it will. I am not one to infringe on other people's intellectual property and make t-shirts that say Weed Dad on them after asking for permission and being told no and selling them for a profit. Not that ever happened or anything.
That said, if you get a tattoo that says, we need a white boy pourquoi, I think if we had a picture of that, we could put a picture of your tattoo on a t-shirt. And I don't mean you, Jay. I mean the listener. Basically, what I'm saying is that every listener of this show needs to go get a we need a white boy pourquoi tattoo right fucking now.
I'm willing to go a step further. You get that tattoo, automatic guest. It doesn't matter if you've ever talked on a microphone before, whether or not you think you're funny. I don't care. If you get that tattoo and you send us photographic proof, you can pick a book and be on the show, and we will talk about anything you want because you have proven that you are one of the best people in the world.
All right. Well, the gauntlet has been thrown. The challenge has been issued.
Yeah, I think it's time to move on to more games before I promise things that will be hard pressed to hold up our end of the bargain for. But I mean that 100%. I mean it. So, all right.
Send us an email. It's I don't even own a television @gmail.com.
And make sure to put White Boy Pourquoi in the title so we know. Because if you just send us one that says, check out my new tattoo, I don't know if we're going to open that or not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I might not actually open that email. Okay. Would you like to play some more games, Jay?
I would. I would like to play a game entitled, What Would They Do?
Sometimes intentions are hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
All right, so What Would They Do was originally created as we put ourselves in the shoes of characters from the book and make decisions based on their decision-making processes to situations that do not actually occur. However, it has since morphed into many variations, of which this is one. This is what would we do if we were in this book and faced with a decision that the characters have been faced with. So, with which the characters have been faced, I should say. Once again, book podcast, I know words. So, we've got a world here where we have hoppers. Hoppers are cowboys, but with hippos, with hops, if you will, and they have all named their hippopotamuses names that are, I would say, kind of similar. There's a running theme here, and we'll give you the names of the main hippos in this book. They are Ruby, Abigail, Betsy, Rosa, Stasia, and Zara. So, obviously, although it's not explicitly mentioned, it seems that female hippopotamuses make for better companions, probably because they're less prone to testosterone-fueled fits of rage where they turn on their owners, or not owners, I should say partners, because they have very reciprocal relationships. By the way, everyone in this book really loves their hippos, which rules. But I was curious, Collision, if you were a hopper and you had a hippo, what do you think you would name it, and why?
Oh my god, this is fucking brutal for me. I am not a good namer of animals. My dad, Charlie, was a legendarily good namer of animals. And he just sort of like handled that for the family. The one time I ever had a pet to name, I named it in a way that a person who never met the cat, my girlfriend Noodles, still resents me for the name I picked and the reason I picked it. So this is a problem for me. So I would just fall back to the most formative influences on me as a person, and I would pick basically at random from one of the following 6 names. And if you know these 6 names, you know everything there is to know about me. So my hop would be named either Angus or Malcolm or Piggy or Blackie or Snake or Away.
Okay. I got 4 of those. I'm not sure about Away.
I mean, I can spoil it.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, Angus and Malcolm are, of course, the driving creative forces behind Australian rock and roll band AC/DC.
Yeah, I figured that much.
Sometimes called Akadeka, for those in the know. Piggy, Blackie, Snake, and Away are, of course, the original 4 members of Canadian thrash band Voivod.
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking like Richie Blackmore was. I was going more down the Sabbath vibe. I was wondering when Geezer was going to show up.
That would be good, especially because I think that in like English terms, his name is basically Dude Butler.
Yeah, Geezer does basically just mean a guy. It's a specific kind of guy, but it's a guy.
Yeah. just
Dude
fucking
Butler.
amazing.
It's funny that we kind of both went to the same place, because I was sticking definitely with more traditionally female names, but I went back to the founding influences of my life too, and I think that I would probably have a hop named Joni, after Joan Jett of the Blackhearts, because one of my favorite musicians as a child. I Love Rock and Roll was the first record I ever owned, and also Joan Jett rules. So yeah, that was pretty much my choice. Plus, I mean, you're looking for something that would strike fear in the hearts of lesser hippos, and Joni Jett, badass. So.
And plus, if you needed to breed Joni, you just find the first bull around named Chachi, and you just go for it.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm
bringing it way back here on IDEO TV.
Can I divert for a second on the name thing? Not hippo names specifically, but names related to this book specifically?
Sure.
Thank you. I was extremely taken with the name Winslow Houndstooth, and I spent some time this afternoon thinking about names with fabric or sewing or tailoring or patterning. references in them.
Yeah,
and
like,
I realized,
it's me, mate, Henry Burberry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what I discovered is that it is almost impossible to take any given fabric or pattern or tailoring related term and not come up with a cool action hero, intriguing sounding name. Here are just a couple. Like I spent like 2 minutes working on this. I think if you need a character name, this is where you should get your character names. Steve Gabardine.
Ooh, I like it.
Carol Chambray.
Little close to Carol Channing, but that's okay.
Only makes it more interesting in my opinion.
Yeah.
Ken Denham.
Ken Denham. Denham is just a great last name. If you're writing a book and you're listening to this, please have a character named Denham in it.
Yeah. Iris Toole.
Ooh.
Sultry, possibly a femme fatale there. How about Chan Gingham?
Ooh. These just keep getting better and better.
Samantha Plaid.
See, I was just going to say something like, I don't know, like, how about Mac Tartan?
Ooh, Mac Tartan. Like, you can just see he's like the engineer of the group, always a little grease-stained, but with the soul of a poet.
Yeah, Julie Cashmere. Yeah, they do. They just, once they start flowing, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, they just don't not work. So, Sarah Gailey, this I owe to you, and I suspect strongly you cracked the code and just didn't share it. And I'm sorry for sharing the code, but this is going to be the next hot wave of character names. You know, forget Kylo Ren. You know,
Kylo Ren has just always been a little too close to Rilo Kiley for me for comfort. Because when I'm watching my action-packed space operas, I don't want to think about Jenny Lewis's 1990s emo pop band. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and when Star Wars introduced a character called Jill Paramore, you were just out.
Yeah, definitely. That was way before Darth Roosevelt's inaugural parade. But I don't know about all these new characters, man. Findian Summer is just a little too much for me.
Oh, God. TK42, My Chemical Romance, do you copy?
Oh, we're back in the groove, finally.
I know, right? Like...
Oh, shit. Ride Coalition D2 is here to the rescue. Oh, gosh. Okay. Wow. I've been watching way too much Fargo lately. I've shaved a mustache, and now I'm saying, oh, gosh. So.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, geez.
I just... we just started season 3 a couple days ago.
Best season, by far. Absolutely my favorite. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is just amazing in that season. It's great. Anyway.
Interesting. I'm glad you said that because, the first episode did not grab me the way previous seasons had. So I'm glad that you said that. I will carry on.
It gets better and better, and her performance is an absolute tour de force. And even if you're not really into the Ewan McGregor double role thing, it's worth hanging around because things get real good.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
No, like spoilers for those of you who have not seen the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Plus, I think that was kind of a big part of the promotional push, if I remember correctly, was he's playing 2 roles. So, spoilers if you also didn't see any of the commercials. However, the new season does feature Jason Schwartzman with a mustache, and I must say that my current look is very influenced by that character. So, what can you do? Oh, geez. Anyway, moving on. You betcha. Moving on, I believe you had one more game, right?
I do. And we don't play this one that often, and I think I probably already stepped on the punchline, but I don't care. I just want the people to hear one of my favorite jingles you've done. So I'd like to play a game called Biggest Surprise.
Never run empty, we're vigorous guys. As the show runs longer and vigorous size. Got them hungry minds and the rigorous eyes. Let us tell you about this fucking book's biggest surprise. Boom!
Okay, this one doesn't need much explanation, really. It's what we were the most surprised about reading this book, so you're going to need to go first because I got to put some brain cells to this while you're talking.
I feel you.
While I'm listening very closely, of course.
Of course. And unfortunately, I can discharge my responsibility with about one sentence. My biggest surprise was that this is kind of a Wild Wild West homage, and not a new unexpected animal goes on a human-killing rampage book. That said, not actually an unpleasant surprise.
Yeah. I think for me, my biggest surprise actually happens pretty early in the book, and it relates directly to your dramatic reading in that I can't remember the character's name. The young feller.
Neville.
Neville. Fucking Neville. He's introduced very early as kind of a hanger-on of Archie's. He really wants to come along with her on this adventure, and she's like, oh, fine, he's a sweet boy, I'm going to bring him along. And I was expecting a lot of kind of cloying, somewhat annoying moments with this young kid who just wants to be part of the action and then manages to, like, save the day with a slingshot or something like that. And it turns out he's dead by, like, page 40. So that was my biggest surprise, is the plucky young tag-along getting fucking murdered in an intensely gory way by a feral bull hippopotamus. So yeah, that was surprising.
And I think I clipped this out of the reading. The reason he's out there in the first place is because he is flat out fucking in love with Archie's hippo, and just wants to go brush her teeth in the night, though he's been warned not to go in the water after dark.
Yeah, because they brush their hippo's teeth. It's so adorable. All right, anyway. Yeah. So we've been frivolous for a while here, but I think a book this serious really demands us to take a step back, kind of, tone down the frivolity. So we should probably take a break, think very seriously about the dental care of hippopotamuses, and then come right back.
Hey, are you going to grab a comically oversized toothbrush and get out there and serve the dental hygiene needs of your local hippo? Or are you just going to sit back and, wait for the nanny state to do it for you?
If you'd like to, I should recommend that you volunteer at your local zoo. Anyway.
Yeah, volunteer at your local zoo, opening up those cages and setting the animals free, man.
Totally, yeah.
Sorry, I just had a flashback to a hardcore band show I once saw where the lead singer, A, did not take his backpack off at any point during the show. B,
it was filled with lyric sheets to their own songs.
Spent more time haranguing us about animal rights between shows than their band spent playing music, and C, threw a thick handful of glitter out into the audience and onto the venue about halfway through the set. And by venue, I mean my living room at the time.
Oh, cool. So you had Earth Crisis play in your house?
Pretty much. No, we had... sadder. We had a band that wanted to be Earth Crisis play at our house.
Oh boy.
And if you've ever had a handful of glitter thrown in your vicinity, you will know that is just there forever.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, fun times. But yes, let's take a moment to reflect, even as glitter reflects, and we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Clickety-clack-clack, clickety-clack-clack, Jefferson and Ohio. We're back. We're riding hippopotamuses to the north. Well, actually, we're done. Ride on. And now that we're done talking about River of Teeth, which was an enjoyable chat as well as a pretty enjoyable book that I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you may want to read if this has interested you at all. It's time for us to recommend other things that we enjoy.
Not only venom and spite, sometimes with sweetness and light, and we always end the episode by telling you about a thing we like. Recommendations.
I guess I'll go first. I recently read a book. It's a newer release. It's entitled A Libertarian Walks into a Bear by Matthew Hongoltz Hetling. It's subtitled The Utopian Plot to Liberate an American Town and Some Bears. And this is a very true story about something called the Freetown Project, where a bunch of internet libertarians got together, found one of the least populated cities in New Hampshire, which has a history, this city does, of, municipal tax evasion, things like that, and decided that if they got enough people to move there who were part of their libertarian movement, they could take over the government, defund everything, and create a model city for libertarians the world over to look at with awe and go, it really works. But what ended up happening was that they created an environment that was very enticing to wild bears attacking humans. And I would really recommend reading this book if you are the type of person like me that enjoys, somewhat dark humor at the expense of the incredibly hubristic world of internet libertarians. Do not expect an unbiased approach. Do not expect, say, fair treatment of these people, but do expect to laugh at a guy who decided to found a town based on the concepts that what really makes freedom free is voluntary cannibalism and the ability to host bum fights. And then people get eaten by bears. So yeah, A Libertarian Walks into a Bear by Matthew Hongoltz Hetling. Check it out.
Okay, a couple things. One, 2 words. Fucking what?
Yes.
Follow-up question. True freedom is what?
So, yeah, they had a few members who were more on the, I'd say, the traditional libertarian side, which is just, we don't want to be taxed for things we don't pay. Things like fucking schools and libraries. Who cares about that? But then they also had a couple more charismatic and outspoken individuals who decided that they would make the tenets of their political platform the ability to make homeless people fight for money and also consensual cannibalism. Which is a great way to win over mainstream America, as you can no doubt guess.
Oh, for fucking sure. On one hand, we have the Freedom From Brigade. On the other hand, we have the Freedom To Brigade. And unfortunately, apparently flanking both brigades, we have phalanxes of slavering-jawed mighty bears.
I mean, yes, and this book does get into a lot of the historical precedent, and that, like, as early as the pre-colonial days, this area was known as a hotspot for bears attacking people. And basically, it turns out, when you, say, dismantle the fire department, the fish and game department, all sorts of public protection, and there's already a lot of bears around, and there's people who are, maybe doing things like leaving trash on their lawns because there's no public service to come pick up their trash. You're creating a very dangerous environment, and it never at any point made me feel bad at laughing at people. And there's actually a couple characters in here who are, I would say, somewhat sympathetic, that, just kind of are just living in this town that suddenly gets taken over by libertarians, and it really makes you think, wow, this would fucking suck. So I just really suggest it. If you are the type of person like me that reads articles about, say, seasteading, or people from this internet forum are going to start a country, and and enjoy that. This is a full-length version of that, basically, and it's great.
So this is in the Goon Island
Yes.
post-thread genre, the action park documentary genre.
Yes, very much. This is kind of like laugh at the hubris of man.
Right. I that the only response I have to this recommendation, Jay, and I don't think I've ever said these words before, and I don't think I will ever say them again. But just let me say this: Go Bears!
You betcha.
I'm going to recommend something a little less politically useful than this, because if a hobbled response to a public crisis based on half-assed political ideology sounds relevant to you, I can't possibly imagine why. But I'm going to recommend a book that's about my favorite subject, me. Not really, but I recently listened to Normal People by Sally Rooney. I know I've recommended Sally Rooney before. I know that this is probably the most uncontroversial normie thing I could recommend. However, this book shredded me in parts. And if you ever listen to this podcast and you think you're like me, first off, I'm so very, very sorry. Second off, you sound cool. And third off, I think you'll really like this book. This book is about the relationship and, particularly the sexual dynamics of some very young people. That may not be your jam. It's not usually my jam, but it's so exceptionally well observed and well done that it fucked me up proper, I believe, is the way I'd like to phrase it. So, Normal People. Sally Rooney, you've done it again. All of English language book reading society is right. You're really good at what you do.
Controversial opinion, but true.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, Zadie Smith, pretty good.
Right, yeah, exactly. Hey, that Shakespeare guy could put together a zinger of an expression that actually seemed to say more than you understood at first glance.
I think you mean Francis Bacon, my friend.
Oh, shit. No, I'm
Speaking
of
of
course
obnoxious internet shit, anyway.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, I'm a Christopher Marlowe truther. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense that a guy wrote one thing under his own name and then became the most successful author in history under a different name. Toots.
Of course.
Anyway, so that was recommendations. But, it isn't just famous people who read stuff that we like. Sometimes it's listeners to this very show.
And sometimes they tell us about it, and then you get to hear this song.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Okay, it's been a while. I'm sure they're backing up, so let's open up the bag and let them pour out.
Dramatic readings. Oh, wait. No. Sorry, wrong song. Okay, so yeah, we're going a little long, so I'm just going to read one. Let me pull her on up here. And this is just, I don't know, this made me smile from ear to ear. And it is from Amy, fake last name. And it goes like this. Hello from the UK. Sorry, I mean, hello from the UK.
Oh, Jesus. Well, we lost her.
Yeah, sorry, Amy. I'm a dumb asshole. And the letter goes like this. I volunteer on the phones for a crisis hotline and do a night shift every couple of weeks.
Oh, my God.
The lack of sleep and call content does weird things to my brain, so listening to music on the way back is out of the question. Words plus music equals too many feelings.
Yeah.
Again, it would be in poor taste for us to make a t-shirt that said, words plus music equals too many feelings. But, yeah, no, you are 10 million% correct. Then, I had the bright idea of listening to IDEO TV on the way home. Best idea of 2020. The songs, meanderings, and bad books are a ridiculous and enjoyable distraction, and I wanted to drop you a line to say thanks. I don't know if you're interested in how/when people listen to you.
Yes.
Always. But you can picture this listener grinning under her face mask on the top deck of a London bus on Sundays at roughly 10:30 p.m. Pacific time. Something about crabs, Amy.
Okay, first off, true hero right there. Absolutely. Like, that is a job for the toughest of the tough. And I don't care how many weapons you carry and how tough you think it makes you, you are nowhere near as tough as someone who works a crisis hotline at night. That is intense. And so I am very, very flattered that Amy has chosen to listen to us to decompress. That's crazy and awesome. So thank you for letting us know.
Exactly. And please don't ever recommend to anybody that they ride the hippo. Because that would almost certainly just baffle and upset them.
Well, now you've ruined my show closer, but that's whatever.
Oh, come on. We all knew where this one was going.
Yeah.
I don't think I ruined it so much as prefigure. You know, we need to model the world we want to live in. A world where podcasts are recorded from hippo back. Slurping through the muck.
That sounds like a great NPR series.
What, slurping through the muck?
Oh, no, I was just thinking a podcast on hippoback.
Oh, that would be good.
Next week on H-Town. Thank you to everyone who listens, not just those who write in. Thanks for your patience. I know we've said it before. Hopefully we won't say it again, but we may. Things are weird. It's tough to get this show going back at the clip it was going when we have to do it remotely, but we really want to, and we're really going to try, and we appreciate your patience sticking with us.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, like everybody, we have been plagued with minor misfortune. I mean, like everybody, we've been plagued with misfortune. Ours has been, blessedly more minor. We recorded 2 full episodes that had to be canned for good reason. You know what I mean? Like, we are trying. Sorry. Just wanted to say that. Like,
we're not just disappearing to ignore you all because we don't care anymore. Things just keep fucking up. And hopefully this is not one of those times. I don't think it will be. But we do want to thank you for sticking it out with us. Hopefully we're still in your feed. If not, maybe you see this notice somewhere. Resubscribe. We're coming back at it, and we're gonna make you proud. Damn it! So
we are slurping through the muck. Hippo back
this week on H-Town.
We are coming at you like men on the backs of hippos with knives in their hands, riding through sheets of flame with inexplicable remote-controlled explosives going off, even though this appears to be a world where the radio has not yet been invented.
Very true. And if you want to get a hold of us, as mentioned earlier, it's I don't even own a television at gmail.com. We're on social media. We have a Facebook group. I don't even know if it exists anymore because people might have given up.
No, it does, and it's better than ever. So that is the I don't even own a television fun time party pit. It's a delight. It's a good place to hang out with like-minded people. It's of late even morphed into a place where people aren't just sharing bad books, but boy, are people sharing bad books, including something about a haunted, I don't even want to say, but it's a part of your body that you would not want to be haunted.
Oh, goodness.
But people have also started to ask, like, more normal and interesting and important questions in there. So if that tantalizes you, please go to Facebook, even though, Facebook is generally awful. But it's a good and positive place, and it's the I Don't Even Own a Television Fun Time Party Pit. You can tweet at us. I don't look at it anymore because Twitter makes me bad and sad.
I look at it about once every couple weeks, and I'll respond occasionally to things. So you could try, but if you want to talk to us, you're better off with email for sure.
For sure. Sorry about that. Oh, also, if you are supporting us on Patreon, I know I'm behind. I promise I will get caught up probably sometime around the new year. That's the traditional time for me to get my shit together and make sure that I'm up to date on merch fulfillment. So, if you're waiting on something or you think I'm in arrears somehow, reach out to us through the email. And I'm sorry to put that on you, but otherwise I might fail and I would feel terrible about it. But if you just want to wait and see if I pull my head out of my ass, I probably will sometime around the new year.
He's usually good for it, I swear. And if you've been supporting us on Patreon and you're like, why am I supporting this podcast that doesn't put out episodes anymore? Hey, don't feel bad. We're putting out episodes again, but we totally understand if we need to prove ourselves to you again. So we're going to be doing another bonus episode again shortly. We've got stuff lined up for the future when it comes to regular episodes for a change. So yeah, stick around. I really feel like I'm like that, wayward relative showing up begging for forgiveness, but that's just where I'm at right now. So, thank you for your patience. Please stick around. There's lots more where this came from, and we will do our best to make it up to you, because we know that in these troublesome times, sometimes things get a little hard to keep up with, and that includes making a show that we both enjoy, because it's some work, and there's not a lot of bandwidth for extra work these days, but we're going to make it happen. So thanks.
Yeah, we love you all. We didn't go away. We just needed to regroup. And when we weren't regrouping, like I said, we tried a couple things that didn't work out. We never have technical issues. We had technical issues.
We had...
that shit cans an entire episode. I can't even explain how much of a bafflement that is to me.
Yeah.
And yet it happened, because anywho. But yeah, we're coming out the gate strong, as though we're riding hippos. Yes, I'm banging this into the ground. I don't care.
Yeah, well, you know how it is when men apologize. So
yeah,
we like to say the same thing over and over again. But anyway,
yeah, we apologize to anyone who thinks they were hurt. That's how men apologize.
Oh yeah, that's far more accurate. Okay, but on a more light note, thanks again for listening. Thanks for sticking around. We will see you very soon. We're gonna, for those of you who do subscribe on Patreon, we'll have a bonus episode out very shortly. We'll have another new episode coming to the main feed soon. ...
Special guest?
Possibly, depending on how the chips fall. But either way, because one thing I've learned is special guests plus 2 remote recordings equals lots and lots of trouble from the technical side. But we'll see. Either way, we will have a new episode for you shortly. And we'll have a Patreon episode for you shortly, which is actually something that's been requested. And I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say if you like cats walking on pianos, you might enjoy this one coming up. And until next time, I don't want to say ride the hippo now, man. You made me all self-conscious.
Nah, do it. You got it. Come on, Jet. You got to do it.
Okay. All right. Until next time.
Ride the hippo. Yeah.
Damn. Did James Hetfield just come in here and tell us to ride the hippo?
Yeah. No.
All right. See you all later. We love you.
Ride the hippo.